Is there 31 days in October?
Hold on, that's right. 30 days. Have September, April, June, and November. 31.
Yeah. I always forget.
Hello there, and welcome to another Masterclass Monday. So, today we are covering the wonderful world of makeup artistry, and based on the fact that I know absolutely nothing about makeup artistry apart from what I've seen or sort of learned working with people, I have invited the delightful Evie Smith to join us here today. Hello, Evie.
Hello.
Hello. So, Evie, first of all,
Um,
tell us a bit about yourself, what kind of work you've done, that sort of thing.
so I trained at the Makeup Academy in Birmingham, and the majority of the stuff that I like to do is theatre, but I kind of just love all aspects of makeup. Like I've done weddings, I've done theatre productions, as you know. I've also kind of done a little bit of film, like amateur film work as well. But I mean, it first sort of started from a love of special effects and just messing around with that at home, basically.
Amazing.
Um,
That's brilliant. So that leads
but
us on
yeah,
to our very first question, which was, how did you become a makeup artist?
yeah. It started because I used to do cosplay when I was younger,
Oh,
and
incredible.
yeah, so I just used to love doing that. I used to go to Comic Con and stuff like that, and then basically I ended up finding all these pages of people doing like at home special effects.
Mm.
And I started doing that, and I mean, it all stemmed from getting a job at the Garrick, doing the Dreaming. Uh, Basically, I had somebody came to my college and asked me, and I, on that year, my New Year's resolution had been to say yes to any new opportunities that came across me,
Oh, brilliant.
and so I said yes to that and loved it. Ended up sort of helping out with all the makeup. Ended up sort of organising the makeup team and stuff. And was very happy when I was given charge of two of the main characters as well to do the makeup for that, and sort of went, I'm good at this. Okay. um,
Amazing.
yeah. So I kind of made an Instagram page and ended up doing 30 days of Halloween on in October, or 31. I can never remember which. Is there 31 days in October?
Hold on, that's right. 30 days. Have September, April, June, and November. 31.
Yeah. I always forget. I was that kid that always dressed up for Halloween the day before. Um, but yeah, so I did 31 days of Halloween, and basically every day created a different makeup look, using random special effects that I'd figured out how to do. Like just using liquid latex and tissue and cotton and face paints and all that sort of lovely stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's kind of like I first started out and like it was all just stuff that I kind of figured out on my own, and then I wanted to kind of finesse my skills. So when I went and worked at the Dreaming, I was talking to one of the makeup artists that was working with me, and she told me about this makeup academy, and I ended up enrolling there and going there.
incredible.
Um, yeah.
Fantastic. So what's the actual sort of day to day of being a makeup artist? What's sort of life like when you're on the job and sort
So for Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, obviously it starts off with trying to figure out these ideas. So I had meetings with you and with Connie to see what sort of thing you'd want. It's definitely a lot to do with like making sure you're showing the director's vision and the costume designer's vision, and making sure you're all working together so there's nothing that sort of clunks, or you want to make sure everything looks smooth. So you don't want like a really brightly coloured costume and then the makeup to be like black and white. It's like you
yeah,
need to make sure that you sort of
it's a lot of
there's those
discussion, isn't it?
yeah,
There's
there's
a
a lot of
lot of
discussion.
sitting around tables going, well, we've been doing this with this, and we're doing this with this,
Yeah,
because you kind of find yourself wanting to tie everything in. It's
yeah,
to one sort of
uh,
aesthetic, which is quite a challenge.
yeah, it is, and like that's all the sort of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't really think about. I find, but it's like yeah, you have those meetings, and then you have those first drawings of like makeup. So like you create like a face chart, and as I sent it to you and Connie to see what you thought.
Mm.
And then like after you've done all the sort of theoretical stuff and all the stuff on paper, that's when you kind of move on to trialing it out. So when we were doing the costume, like sort of measuring up and stuff, that's when I sort of grabbed a few people to the side and sort of did that to do a little test, and obviously got you to have a look at it to see if you liked it. And then yeah, it's like once you've got all that done and the director's happy with it and everybody's happy with that makeup, then you can sort of like lock it into place.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then like when it's going to the normal shows, I mean, if you want a day in the life of a makeup artist, basically I'd usually come in about maybe an hour earlier than the rest of the team, being like the designer. I'd just go in, sort of look over my notes, see if there's anything that I needed to change from the day before, make sure all the brushes and sponges are nice and clean. If they're not, clean them. Sort of make sure that all your table that you're working on is all wiped down. I'd make sure that we've got all the correct paints out, we've got everything nice and in order, so it's easy, because obviously for the Witch in the Wardrobe we had a lot of kids to make over in a very quick time.
Yes, that was quite a feat of magic. I think it was something like I think it was doing the makeup of about 45 people in the space of 10 pages of dialogue.
Yeah, so
It was
it
quite
was. I think it's
remarkable.
about 8 minutes. I think I timed it once, and it was about like 8 minutes or less.
Yes, yeah,
That we had to do everybody's, but I think we managed to get there in the end. And
we did. Just
um,
and credit to you and your team for doing so.
yeah, the team that I had were fantastic, and everybody sort of was great at working together. And I've definitely had a lot of thanks to the various other teams backstage that lended me a couple of people to help out, because I ended up with I think a couple of people from wardrobe
Yes,
ended up coming and giving me a hat as well, and Gabba, bless him. But yeah. So it's like I make sure that everything's nice and tidy, everything is where it needs to be, so that we don't end up running around with our headless chickens trying to find stuff. Like midway through there, the last thing you want is to be doing pink like eyeshadow on somebody, and the pink eyeshadow is in a different dressing room.
yes.
So I'd make sure that everything's in its proper place, make sure everything's clean, and basically reset everything, make sure everything's where it should be.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of
quite
like
a feat of logistics.
Yeah. Then once the team comes in, it's sort of like if there's any notes or anything, let them know that. Just talk to them about anything that's like been mentioned by the director or anyone. And then yeah, you just sort of end up waiting for your bit in the show. Like for the dreaming, I'd asked the two main characters that I had to do to come in a bit early, just because we had about I'm not sure how many kids, but there was a lot of kids to make up before the show, and we just found that it was taking too long if I was starting at the same time that the kids had come in. So I sort of asked two main characters if they could come in a little bit early so I could get their makeup over and done with, basically, and help the rest of the team with doing that. But it's just sort of, as the show goes on, you kind of have to figure out what needs to be done so that you can get everything done in time.
Yes, yeah. But I think it's the sort of makeup's not a quick job. I think sometimes people do, and it's that nightmarish thing of makeup when done well. I imagine can end up looking almost very subtle at times, and there's a lot of subtle sort of foundation and groundwork to then sort of build these incredible looking sort of things upon. So it really is. I'm endlessly impressed when see makeup artists just smashing it out super fast. What is incredibly intricate work.
Well, you've got like it depends on what sort of place you work in. So for theatre, there's a lot more room for error because obviously the audience is sat quite far away.
Yes.
So you don't need to really worry about those really intricate details because most of the time people aren't going to see them. Like you don't some like doing some tiny winged eyeliner that's perfect and perfectly aligned. While it looks pretty, it's like for somebody right at the back of the theatre, they're not going to notice it. They're not going to notice that
Yeah.
line is perfectly like drawn to a T. Whereas if you're in film or TV, you've got the cameras doing close-ups and everything like that. So you cannot have any error at all. I mean, a perfect example of it is wigs. So for theatre, it's like the wig lace, because that's one of the things that I did learn as well at the Makeup Academy was how to knot wigs and sort of basically make them like to a very amateur degree. But like so the wig lace that you have for theatre, it's a lot coarser because then it can stay on a lot easier and you don't need to worry about the audience seeing it. But then you've got this stuff for film and it's just incredible how thin it is so that it can disappear and you don't notice it. It's like you end up watching it and not realizing that they've got a wig on, and it's just incredible how that is an ability that people have.
Amazing. So what is something that surprised you about being sort of a makeup artist? So once you sort of first got started and you kind of were almost at that point where you're like, right, that is sort of what I do, I guess. What is something that sort of surprised you in your journey to this point?
Well, I mean, one thing that surprised me, I mean, it didn't really surprise me. It was just more of a thing that I didn't think about when I was at the academy. Being told about how much of the trainees in film, how much you're basically kind of the secretary, like so you're in charge of like working out the petty cash and like working out breakfasts and sorting out who's going to be sat with who, like working out like what makeup artist is going to be on what actor and stuff like that. And you very much are doing filing for that sort of side. And I didn't think that was a sort of I didn't really think about how that, but it just definitely makes sense.
Yes, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it is just sort of every time I do something, I'll end up learning something else off somebody. Like every time I work behind the stage and I'm doing makeup, there'll be somebody on my team will be like, "Oh, why don't you do something like this?" And it's like, "Ah, yeah, why didn't I think of that?" Because I have a tendency to overthink quite a lot. So, like a lot of the time, it does take somebody to sort of sit there and be like, "There's an easier way of doing this." But
yeah, but to be fair,
I don't know.
I think that's always a really good motto for anyone who's a professional. Is it's always extending that awareness, as I said, to feedback from people around you and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that there's always new things to learn. I think however long you've worked or that sort of thing, there will always be something new to learn.
I can't really think of anything that has surprised me that much. My brain's just completely drawn the blank. So
no. So what this one probably might be a little bit. It'll either be much easier to answer or much more difficult. What is your favourite thing about makeup artistry?
I mean, from my experience, one of my favourite things has been working at the Garrick and working backstage there because, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I've kind of fallen in love with theatre is because of working backstage and getting along with the cast and crew and stuff like that. I mean, I loved working at the for the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and being able to sort of put my own vision out there. Like I really loved doing that. It was a very big thing considering I'd only just finished my training, and to be able to sort of end up in a designer position was quite a big thing for me. But yeah, it's kind of like I love working backstage. I love the energy that you get, and it's sort of just a fantastic thing to see the like excitement of people. And
Yeah, it's quite a special place.
it is. It's a thing that, like, if you don't work in theatre, you'll never understand that feeling of being backstage just before a show starts, and all the cast are sort of bubbling, and all the crew are getting ready into their positions, and everybody's just like that anticipation that you get.
Yeah, I think
Where you're getting,
it's that anticipation of, I suppose, embarking on what is about to be a very, if anything, quite tense, stressful, and very
yeah,
intricate 2 hours.
yeah,
It's I think it's one of those things that's easy to forget. And even with makeup artistry for theatre, I said you kind of mentioned it a bit with kind of needing the cast to come in earlier, especially if there's
yeah,
changes during a show. And we kind of talked about the
yes,
8-minute changeover. Your creativity has to match up to, I suppose, a very
yeah.
tight time limit.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. It's like a lot of the time you'll have an idea in your head of what you want to do, but you just can't, like, you have to kind of sit and look at that idea, and it'll, like, I've often had these plans for stuff that have been so intricate and stuff, and they'd look amazing, but then you just got to take into account the fact, like, right, I've got literally 15 minutes to do this, and if I'm properly going to do it like that, it's going to take at least 40 minutes, so I've got to sit and simplify this idea down.
Mm.
I definitely do that with Aslan,
Yes,
uh,
yeah.
because I had a lot of plans for that, but because I only had the interval, it's kind of like I didn't have enough time to just sort of do the full thing. I mean, I was still happy with how it looked
Yeah,
afterwards, but
yeah.
it was just one of those things of like, you just sort of have this idea that it's like there's just no way I can get this done in that amount of time.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's the way. It's the way with directing as well. You
yeah,
go in with so
well,
many ideas, and so quickly you go, "Oh, there's definitely not a budget for that." Or, "Well, if we
no,
had an extra year to work on this, then maybe we could." Or my
yeah,
favorite one often is, "Well, if we just had the chance to knock down a few walls and rebuild the theatre how we wanted it to
yeah.
be, then
Just,
great, we could do
make
that."
the just make the stage 10 times bigger. Then
I
we,
know
yeah, yeah,
it,
yeah.
and I
You
always
could have that
feel
cargo running around on top of it.
I feel very indignant when the theatre won't literally change its very foundations for one creative idea I've had.
Yeah.
Not really. So, I suppose my next question is: you talked about getting a start in cosplay. Would,
Yes.
are there any? What kind of avenues, or I suppose, what would you recommend people who are maybe sort of in that position you were in, or that kind of thing, who are considering makeup artistry as an option for them, do to kind of get started, and sort of what are some good ways or places to learn makeup artistry?
Um. Well, what I'd say is it depends on what you want to do. For me, it started off as special effects, and I literally just went on YouTube and googled how to do home special effects, and I just sat and I googled loads of stuff and practiced it at home. I mean, you can get liquid latex and stuff like that, like really cheaply off Amazon. You can get it off your local, like a lot of places. If you've got a fancy dress shop, which we do in Lichfield, um, which has been very much where I've got a lot of my supplies over the years. Um, but like, you can, if you just, like, I started out with literally liquid latex and some tissue, and just sort of sat there, um, and just sort of had a mess around with it and tried to see what I could create with it. Some and like some of my earlier stuff is very like obvious that it's literally just liquid latex and some tissue. But
Yeah,
you kind of learn how to neaten up those edges. You learn how to blend things, and it's definitely about trial and error. It's just sort of sitting there and messing around with it. one tip I would say is if you're going to be doing anything around your eyes, make sure to get a liquid latex that does not have much of a smell to it because it stings a
Ooh,
lot. Um,
that sounded like
I've
something
made,
learnt from experience.
yeah, yeah. I was doing I was trying to do a basically make it look like it's on my Instagram. I basically did Ariel for one of my 31 days of Halloween, but she stabbed her eye with a fork.
Ah, lovely.
Um, and basically doing the eye patch over the top of my eye, I completely forgot that the liquid latex that I had was not made to be using around the eyes. So there was a lot of um, sort of water coming out of my eyes. It was very it's just it's got a very poignant smell to it. Liquid latex has it's yeah, it's not fun. um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So,
but
yeah, that's grand. So, I suppose the key thing is just experiment, and more experimentation, I guess.
yeah, literally I had an idea for something in my head. I followed lots of different special effects makeup artists on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere, and I just sort of had a look at what people were doing. Like if you just type in special effects into Instagram, you end up with a load of people doing stuff like that. And it's the same for makeup as well. Like the eyeshadows that I've done, like just the fashion kind of makeup, and my the makeup that I wear day to day, like when I'm working and stuff, is all stuff that I've literally just seen from beauty vloggers and stuff on Instagram, and just sort of gone, I'm going to try that. And you just sort of it just takes a lot of almost research of what to do with stuff, and just trial and error, like you said.
Amazing.
Um,
Fabulous. And so, final question for you,
mhm.
and no pressure, but what is your favourite show or project that you've worked on?
Um, See, I have a few different ones. So the
Brilliant.
dreaming will always a place in my heart because it was my first show, and it was the thing that made me fall in love with doing makeup and then helped me move on to theatre. I will also have a very special place in my heart for The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe because that was a very big opportunity for me and also an amazing show. Um, so like I'd probably say those two are very big for me,
Mm.
and in my favorite things to work on, like for different reasons. Like
Yeah.
I the designer for the dreaming, like I love doing that makeup because it was very much a me like makeup, because it was very bold, very crazy, very bright makeup, and well, as you know, Johnny, that's the sort of person that I am.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but like having that, being able to work with that amount of color, and that just like not having to do this little intricate stuff. Like I love working big. When I was doing art at school, I chose to do a my final art piece on a basically 6 A1 sheets stuck together because I just love working nice, big, and bold and stuff like that. But then obviously doing The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, like again, it was a chance to do makeup that I love doing, and like that working with the cast and everything, and just having that opportunity um to put something that like I'd created
Yeah.
onto a stage.
Yeah. So put
It
your mark on it.
Yeah, it was a very big thing. I mean, when I saw that my name in the program that said that I was a designer, I was like, ah! And I was very happy when I think I remember walking home and coming into the room, and I just sort of ran to my mum and showed her the program and was just sort of doing a little happy dance.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, but yeah, I definitely say the Dreaming, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe are definitely my favourite jobs that I've worked on. Um,
Amazing.
yeah.
So, is there any final things that you would like to pass on to any sort of, I suppose, young people, or I mean, not necessarily young people, but people who are sort of thinking about makeup artistry either as a hobby or a career or that sort of thing? Is there
Um,
anything you'd like to impart upon them?
don't feel scared to try stuff out. Like, just if there's something in your head that you've got an idea for, just sort of have a look how you can do it. It's a lot of being creative, especially when you're first starting out. Because obviously, once I've done my training, like they teach you how to do stuff. But even though there's for some things there are proper methods of how to get this, that, and the other, it is a lot of problem solving and kind of going, okay, this is what I want. So if I use this and this, I can create this. I mean, one of my examples was using the salt and sugar and Vaseline to create the ice on the Ice Queen's face,
Yes, yeah.
like for the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was a technique that I used when I was doing my training that my tutor had never even thought of. Because I basically I did a prosthetic nose, and my mum was my model. I did a prosthetic nose for her, and she had a frostbitten nose, and like I got her dressed up in like all this woolly clothing, make her look like she was on top of a mountain, and then basically got a load of fake snow, but all the intricate details and like the icicles on her eyelashes and around her mouth and stuff like that were all done with salt and sugar, because it really works as an ice crystal kind of sort of thing.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things. Like, a good thing to remember is that there can be random stuff just lying around your house that end up being very like good to use. Like, a
yeah,
lot of the stuff, just if you see something and go, that would work like this, give it a try, see
yeah.
what it does.
And I suppose the more you
um
experiment, the more you practice, the more I suppose it's that almost like bank of knowledge of different materials and
yeah,
things, and the kind of stuff that you can do with them. And I suppose
yeah,
the better or the easier it'll become to sort of solve those problems.
yeah. Well, you just end up like, I've got a notebook full of all the stuff from when I was at the Makeup Academy and stuff like that. But like, I always note down anything that like any ideas I come up with, so that if I'm stuck on something and kind of going, oh, how should I do that? I can just go through this little notebook and be like, that's how I could do this, this, and this, and then
Yeah,
it'll have this effect that I need. Um,
amazing.
but yeah, I just sort of say, like, if you're thinking about it, just give it a try. Like, it's not difficult to just have a go at home. Get
Yeah,
one of your mates to come over and have a little practice on them. Or, I mean, I first started practicing makeup on my mom as my first model. I mean, my first model was myself, and I just sit there in front of my mirror and just mess around with makeup for about 3 hours. um Probably longer than that.
yeah, amazing. Thank you very much. I really appreciate coming and talking to us about makeup artistry. As it, if And yeah, thank you. It's been quite illuminating, because I don't know that much myself, so I'm always keen to learn more. So thank you very much for listening to this week's Masterclass Monday. If you have any suggestions for what we could do a Masterclass on in sort of upcoming weeks, please do let us know in the comments of this video. Otherwise, have a fantastic week, and as always, stay safe, stay positive, and we'll see you soon.